We're back. It's that time of the year. The season's over. We just went to our last race yesterday. It was an absolute disaster. I tried to put a Super Vic intake on my car. I don't have an O2 sensor, so I can't really make educated decisions on it at the track as to what it wants. I didn't take it to the dyno because I didn't have time, so it was a complete disaster. The car ran awful. We made like 2 hits and just parked it. But Brandon was out there. He's got an 89 Fox that I did a large amount of wiring on for him, and he just finished building that this year, and that went really well. He went like 857 on his third pass ever in that car. A couple other friends are out there. Grandma's out there. He went a personal best like 824, which is absolutely flying because he built that entire truck in his garage. So it was a good time. We had a lot of fun, but for the Camaro, we're done with it. I'm done with that anything for now. It was fun. We had a blast, but I need to move on. I need boost in my life. So there's gonna be some videos upcoming on that. I've got some ideas. I think they're awful ideas, but I think it's gonna be fun. In the meantime, I finally got caught up enough in my shop here that I got to roll Dad's car back in. He's got a motor on the way. He finally broke down. He's gonna ditch the small block Chevy. That's one we heard a few videos ago. It dropped a valve at the finish line on a personal best pass for him as well. He went 10:02 at like 132, which was the best this car's ever been. If you don't know this car, if you're not familiar with it, a few years after he sold the Camaro, he had claimed he was getting out of racing, and that didn't last long. So we went and we bought this from a dealership. Actually, it was just a factory. It's a 95 Formula car, hardtop. It took us forever to find a hardtop car. So he bought this in like 2007. It had like 120,000. It was completely stock, and it just kind of progressed over the years until like last year. It was kind of like an older build bracket car, basically, 10, 15 years had gone by of him racing it. It was pretty ugly. It had like Pro Stars. It had a really nasty cage that we did in his garage. MSD. It was just super outdated, and he was kind of ready to step up a little bit. So he had Lou's Hot Rod Shop out by Eau Claire, Wisconsin, put in this cage, which turned out absolutely amazing. It's an 850 cage. It's got some extra bars in it. It's got actual automotive paint on it, which is super cool. It's not like your typical rattle can paint. He went to the Kirky. We rewired the car, but that was short-lived. On the second outing with it, he wrecked the car like 100 feet out, got into the wall. So we redid the entire front end, the whole front clip. We had it painted, all new panels. We had a donor car we bought, got it all put back together, and 2 passes later, after we completely fixed the front end, the motor dropped a valve. So here it sits, no small block, and he had to make some decisions. Well, he's been racing with us quite a bit lately. He's been going a lot of heads up racing. He saw him do the index race. So he's kind of got the bug now to go a little bit faster and kind of get with the times with his car. So obviously I'm kind of an LS connoisseur, and he's gotten interested in it. So he was talking about options, build a new small block, maybe go LS. He's talking about maybe doing like a 6-liter SBE deal. And we were kind of window shopping one day, and I sent him a link for a 416 LS3 that made like 750 horse NA. It's a package deal from Scott Shafroff Engines. And I was like, hey man, this would be super cool. He's like, yeah, that would be cool. And like 2 days later, he sends me an invoice. He's like, yeah, I bought it. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, that escalated quickly. So today we are gonna start the LS swap on the LT car that had a small block Chevy. So it came from the factory with an LT1. He put a small block Chevy in it. And now we're gonna go LS, which is probably what it should have. So this is what we're working with right now. It's got a BMR K-member in it. It's got BMR lowers and everything that he put in it last year. He's done a ton of upgrades on this thing last winter. We rewired it, we did the cage. He also put new wheels on it, new suspension in the rear, new control arms. It's got new strange brakes on it. So like he's really got this thing coming along pretty nicely. And I think this LS3 is the last piece this car needs. Make this as easy as possible. What we did is ordered up the pedestal mounts from BMR for this K-member, but for an LS. So, because I'm not a fabricator or chassis builder, we can set her in there on these mounts like such. It should put the motor where it needs to be for everything to fit right. Like we bought long tube headers, and I don't want to have to bash everything in on this car. So hopefully bolting it in with these pedestals will put it in a factory-ish location. Everything else will fit right. So today what we're gonna do is take one of my multiple short blocks I have laying around. We're gonna set it in the car on those stands. The front plate should be here soon. But we're gonna set it in there, we're gonna get the starter on, and just as much as we can do to prepare for when the new motor gets here in like 2 weeks. So we got set in here. This is a much better view seeing an LS in here than a small block Chevy. So like I said earlier, we just bought the pedestal mounts for an LS. We just called it BMR, told them what you're doing. They sent us these. Side note, the driver's side is a 1/2 inch longer. So if you're doing this and you're like, oh, why does this sit crooked? Driver's side is a 1/2 inch longer. Other than that, it's in here. Dad's running back to his house right now to grab an empty Power Glide case. So we can put that in there and kind of get our final resting place. Looks like everything's pretty good. There's a little bit of limited clearance on the oil pan area where it meets his rack and pinion right there. I'm hopeful. The car's pitched up quite a bit right now. Not having complete motor in it, obviously. So hoping the car comes down, the back drops with the tranny, and that'll give us a little bit more clearance there. But I'm gonna throw some heads on here just for mock-up stuff so we can try the headers when they get here this week. And I'm gonna throw a starter on it. So I didn't want to fight the what ifs of ride height and drivetrain angles and things like that. So I thought, let's just simulate where it's actually going to sit. So I ran the coilovers down in the front. The back, there's a little bit of goofiness going on here. So he's got shocks and stock springs. He actually uses V6 springs in the back. They're a little bit softer. So I used a ratchet strap. Yep, I ratchet strapped the back down. And I just told him, I'm like, you're going to have to buy different springs or coilovers so the car can sit right because it's like a monster truck. So this is the new ride height of the car, which made it a lot easier for us to figure out where everything's gonna land. And then we've got our mock-up Power Glide case. This is an empty case we had laying around in here. So we've got this, everything's set right now. It's still about a 2-degree angle. I was trying to get to 1 degree, and I think we can bring the back of the tranny up a fuzz just to get that where we want it. We got the mounts in, just unmodified, sitting where they are from BMR. Everything looks pretty good. We got the headers in, and they actually, first time ever, a set of headers fit really nicely. This pipe right here was touching on the K-member mount in the corner. This is where it mounts to the body. So we did modify this a little bit. Dad just cut off, this one's uncut. So we cut along here, cut along the top, pulled this in a little bit, cut off the extra, and then we'll do the same thing down here, cut this off and weld that up. And then that gave us enough room for the header to fit really nice. So headers are on, starters on, everything's looking really good. The only thing I'm worried about is oil pan clearance, but I think we're gonna have enough. That motor comes with a GM muscle car pan, and I think that's gonna fit just about right. So this is kind of the final product we're looking at. Yes, that motor that he ordered is meant to have a carburetor on it. That's how the package comes. It's kind of what he wanted. We are going to the Terminator to control everything but the fuel, obviously. So this is with a Super Vic sitting on it. His doesn't come with a CID intake, which sits a little bit taller yet. We've actually got that spacers on there to simulate where the CID will sit. So he ran home right now to grab a carburetor. And as you can see, it's gonna be super tight. I don't know, there's not gonna be enough clearance for the bowl. I don't think. We'll try it, but we're probably gonna have to mount the carburetor sideways, which isn't the end of the world, and it'll give us the clearance we need. Like usual, I went with my big block Chevy water pump thing. There's debate on that, but I like this setup a lot because at any racetrack, you can usually find a big block Chevy water pump laying around, and it simplifies things. And an LS water pump is a small fortune. They're like $600. So we're going with that. The headers are on, intake's where it's gonna be, and we are pretty close. I think that's about the point where now we wait for the actual motor to show up. It's supposed to be in like 2 weeks. So once that gets here, we can start buttoning things up for final install. I have a lot of wiring to do, going from the carburetor to the MSD stuff over to the EFI. I started pulling out everything and just sorting out wires that we do and don't need, obviously. The computer's gonna sit right here. I use the motion clamp mount there, so that'll be nice. Arc panel's gonna go in the glove box, and that'll be next week's video. But at any rate, it's in. We wait for the new one. Stand by.